The sky above New District 9 was always gray. Even during the day, clouds hung like a heavy blanket hiding the sun. In this giant city filled with flying cars, talking billboards, and robotic cleaners, no one noticed a small girl walking slowly. Down the rain-covered street, her name was Mira. She was 12 years old but looked younger, because she hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Her clothes were old and torn, but she kept herself as clean as she could. Her brown hair was tied back, and her eyes bright, deep, and calm always looked straight ahead. She didn't beg or cry. She just walked quietly, looking for leftover food in trash bins, hoping to find something not spoiled. That day the rain fell gently. Mira held a piece of plastic over her head as she walked past the city's rich zone. The tall buildings here touched the sky, their windows shining like diamonds. Flying cars parked themselves gently on sky platforms. Robots held umbrellas for their owners. It was another world, shiny, cold, and full of rules. Myra wasn't supposed to be here. Guards usually chased street kids away. But today it was raining, and Mira was careful to stay out of sight. She stopped in front of a tall tower with golden windows. It was called Golden Plate Tower, the most expensive restaurant in the city. They served food made by special food printers and imported spices from Mars farms. Only the richest people could eat here. Mira stood under the ledge outside the glass wall. Inside, people laughed and talked while eating large meals. Mira's stomach growled softly. She didn't want to steal. She just wished someone might notice her. That's when she saw him. A man sitting alone near the window. He wore a dark coat and simple glasses. His face looked tired, but peaceful. He wasn't laughing like the others. He just ate quietly, looking at nothing in particular. Mr. Ronan. Most people knew the name. He was a millionaire who funded science labs and space research. Some said he helped design the first moon farms. But he never appeared in public often. He avoided news cameras. He never smiled. But when Mira saw him, she felt something different. His loneliness looked familiar. Her eyes gently followed his hand as he picked at his plate. He barely touched the food. So much of it was still there. It's warm bread, roasted greens, steamed rice, and what looked like sweet pudding. Myra hesitated. She knew this was a mistake, but her hunger was louder than her fear. She stepped closer to the glass. The rain hit her shoulders, soaking her sleeves. She placed her palms softly on the window and said in the most gentle voice, "May I have your leftovers, sir?" She didn't shout. She didn't ask twice. She just said it, then lowered her hand. She expected nothing. Most couldn't even hear you through those thick windows, but Ronan heard her. He looked up. Their eyes met. For a few seconds, time felt like it stopped. The rain outside slowed, the lights inside dimmed, and everything was silent except for that. One moment. Ronan stared at her face. He blinked, leaned forward, then rubbed his eyes and looked again. He had special lens implants in his glasses. They could scan energy, detect movement, and even read neural patterns. But this time, they showed him something strange. Her eyes. There was a faint glow barely visible, but it was there. Light energy signature that no normal human should have. The lens sent him a silent alert. Light pattern detected, code unknown. Possible match, Orion Archive. His heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, Ronan stood up, grabbed the half-eaten plate, walked toward the restaurant door. People looked at him, confused. He never left his seat. He never gave food to strangers. The automatic doors slid open. Ronan stepped into the rain. Mira stepped back, frightened, but he didn't speak harshly. He simply held out the plate. "Here," he said softly. "It's warm." Mira looked at him, unsure if it was a trick. "Why?" she asked quietly. Ronan gave a small smile. Not a fake one, but real. The kind that comes when someone remembers something important. "You reminded me of someone," he said. "Long ago." Mira took the plate carefully. "Thank you," she whispered. She turned and ran down the street, holding the plate close. She didn't look back. She just ran, her small feet splashing through puddles. Disappearing into the shadows of the lower city, Ronan stood in the rain for a long time, looking. Where she had gone, his glasses still showed the alert. Light signature active. Possible activation key. He had no idea what it meant yet. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a hungry girl. Something about her was different, and he needed to find her again, not because of science, not because of money, but because when he looked into her eyes, he felt something he hadn't felt in years' hope. That night, the city continued its usual rhythm. Flying cars zipped past. Neon lights blinked in every color, and drones buzzed quietly above. But inside Ronan's private lab, far from the noise, something had changed. Ronan sat alone in his dark study, watching the same moment again and again. The moment Mira looked at him, his glasses had recorded everything. He zoomed in on her eyes, adjusting the light filters. There it was again, the faint glow, like a small pulse of energy. It's not normal, not human. The lens AI had matched it with a very old and hidden file from a top-secret project called Orion. Archive. Ronan opened the file. Inside were research notes, star maps, and symbols from an ancient artifact found during a deep space mission. That mission had ended badly. The ship disappeared. Only one box made it back. Inside it was a strange stone that glowed when touched by a single person on Earth, a child. It's now lost. The energy recorded from Mira's eyes was almost the same as the stone's reaction. "No way," Ronan whispered. He leaned back in his chair. "Could it be?" He replayed her words. "May I have your leftovers, sir?" Simple, polite, honest. He had met people with power before: scientists, leaders, even war heroes. But none had that kind of glow. Not outside, but inside. Ronan opened a locked cabinet and took out a small metal cube. It was part of the old Orion tech, something he had kept hidden for years. He placed it on the table. Nothing happened. He stared at it, thinking, what if Mira touches this? He stood up, grabbed his coat, and left the lab. The city never slept, and neither would he not until he found her again. Meanwhile, Mira sat with a group of children under an old broken bridge in Lower District 9. The smell of smoke and rust filled the air. A small fire kept them warm as they shared the food Ronan had given her. The kids listened as Mira told them about the rich man who gave her his plate. "He looked sad," she said, "but not like others." His eyes were quiet. One boy, Timo, laughed. "Maybe he's just old." Mira smiled. "Maybe, but he looked at me like he saw something ... special." "You are special," Timo said. "You always share, even when you're hungry." Mira looked at the stars barely visible through the smoke. She didn't know why, but after meeting Ronan, something inside her felt warm, like a tiny light had been turned on. The next day, Ronan sent his drones to search every camera feed in the city. He had special access. Not even the mayor could stop his software. He looked for her, frame by frame, street by street. Nothing, too much noise, too many faces. And Mira knew how to stay hidden. So Ronan did something he never thought he'd do. He went outside. On foot, dressed in simple clothes, without any bodyguards or tech, Ronan walked the lower streets. People didn't recognize him. To them, he was just another tired man. He searched food corners, tunnels, bridges, and broken parks. Finally, after hours, he saw her. She was giving a small piece of bread to a crying child near an old vending machine. Her back was turned. But he knew it was her. "Mira," he said softly. She turned. Her eyes widened. She didn't run, but she took a step back. "I'm not here to hurt you," Ronan said. "I just wanted to see you again." Mira looked at him carefully. "Why?" "I think you're very special," he said. "Not just kind, but important." "I'm just a girl," she said. "Maybe. But your eyes, they told me a different story." She looked away. "I don't want anything from you," Ronan added, "but I want to show you something. If you don't like it, you can leave." Mira paused. The other children stood behind her, unsure. Finally, she nodded. "One visit." Ronan took her to his lab. It was hidden beneath an old music hall, behind doors no one noticed. Inside, it was clean, quiet, and filled with strange machines. Mira's eyes widened. She had never seen so much light and glass in one place. He walked her to a table where the metal cube waited. This, said, is very old. It comes from the stars. Most people can't activate it. Mira frowned. Why me? I don't know. But I believe it will react to you. She looked at the cube. It was simple, cold, and silent. Can I touch it? She asked. He nodded. She placed her hand on top. For a moment, nothing, then dash click. The cube glowed blue, then gold. Symbols danced in the air above it. Soft hum filled the room. Mira didn't move, but her eyes sparkled with the same light. Ronan's heart beat fast. He watched as the cube projected a small hologram of a distant galaxy. A voice echoed from inside it. Light detected. Beacon connection. Ready. Then the cube dimmed. Myra stepped back, breathing slowly. What was that? She asked. Ronan shook his head. I don't know. It hasn't spoken in 10 years. They stood in silence. Finally, Mira asked, Am I in danger? Ronan looked at her. Yes, he said honestly. If others find out, they may try to use you. She nodded calmly. But I'll protect you, he added. If you let me. Mira didn't answer right away. Then she said quietly, Only if I can protect my friends too. Ronan smiled. Of course. He didn't just see a poor girl anymore. He saw a spark, something rare, something ancient. A small light that might one day change everything. The city lights of New District 9 blinked all night, but deep under the surface, inside Ronan's hidden lab, things were finally coming to life. After the cube activated, Ronan didn't sleep. He watched the recordings over and over. Mariah's touch, the lights, the strange voice from the relic. He had spent years trying to unlock the secrets of alien tech brought back from deep space. He had hired the best minds, used the best tools, but none of them could wake it up. Mira had done it without even trying. This changed everything. Ronan sat in front of the cube. It was dark again, silent, but something told him it wasn't finished. The message had said, Beacon connection. Ready? Ready for what?
Right.
He opened an old report from the Orion archive. One line stood out. The relic responds only to light bearers, rare carriers of the seed planted centuries ago. Ronan didn't know what that meant, but Mira might be one of those carriers. Maybe even the only one. The next morning, Mira returned to the bridge where her friends waited. She was quiet, thoughtful. The others rushed to her. What happened? Timo asked. Are you okay? Mira smiled softly. Yes, he didn't hurt me. He showed me something strange. But I'm fine. She sat down and pulled out warm bread from a small box Ronan had given her. The children's eyes lit up. I said I'd only visit once, she told them. But now, ... I think I'll go again. The kids didn't say anything. They trusted Mira. If she felt it was safe, they believed her. Still, deep down, they knew something had changed. She wasn't just a street girl anymore. Not really. Back at his lab, Ronan prepared a small bag of food, water, and a blanket. He wasn't just a man with machines. He was starting to care. Mira reminded him of his younger sister, who had died long ago when a disease spread across Earth's lower zones. She, too, had a kind heart and bright eyes. That evening, Ronan waited outside the broken bridge, holding the bag. When Mira walked up, she didn't speak. She just nodded. Ready? He asked. She nodded again. Together, they walked through the narrow alleys back to the lab. This time, Ronan didn't take her through the usual path. He took her to a deeper section underground, one he hadn't opened in years. This, he said, is where I keep the old ship pieces. He unlocked a thick metal door. Inside was a large room filled with parts burnt panels, alien rocks, strange machines that looked both old and futuristic. In the center stood a half-broken pod shaped like a cocoon. This came from the Orion. Crash, he explained. We recovered it from a crater. No one could open it. Mira stepped closer. The pod's surface began to glow faintly. Ronan's eyes widened. Even this. Mira gently touched the pod. Lights blinked. A line appeared on the shell. Then, slowly it opened. Inside was a smooth crystal orb floating in the center. It's beautiful, Mira whispered. The orb lit up and showed a projection of stars and planets. A calm voice spoke in a soft tone. Lightbearer detected. Connection. Stable. Journey may now begin. Ronan almost dropped his glasses. Journey, he repeated. Mira looked at him. Where? The orb answered. To the beacon buried beneath Earth's surface. Hidden for 400 years. Waiting for the key. Mira stepped back. I'm the key? Yes, the voice replied. You carry the light seed. Ronan couldn't believe it. The stories were real. Long ago, peaceful visitors from another galaxy had come to Earth. They didn't bring war. They brought hope. But before they could complete their mission, they were attacked. Only one of their seed devices survived. It was passed on. It's hidden among humans. Now, it had awakened inside Mira. Suddenly, the lights in the lab flickered. An alarm rang. Ronan checked the screen. The system had been breached. Someone was watching. They found us, he said. Who? Mira asked. The Central Science Authority. They must have tracked the signal when the orb activated. Will they take me? They know what you are? Yes. What will they do to me? Ronan looked down. They'll want to use you, study you, control you. Mira stayed calm. Then we have to leave. Ronan nodded. There's a safe place. Far from the city. It's where I first found the relic. We'll go there. He moved quickly, packing supplies, turning off the main power and erasing files. Mira watched him work. Before they left, she touched the orb one last time. Will I understand more if I go? She asked. Yes, the voice answered. Truth is waiting. Late that night, Ronan and Mira escaped through the underground tunnels. The rain returned, washing the streets clean. Above, drones searched. But below, the two walked in silence, carrying the last hope of a forgotten message. Mira held the orb in her arms. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel small or weak. She felt important. She didn't know what the journey would bring, but she knew one thing. The man who once gave her leftovers was now risking everything to protect her, and maybe, just maybe, this was how miracles began. The tunnel was long and quiet, with only the sound of their footsteps echoing through the cold stone. Ronan held a small light in one hand and carried a heavy bag on his shoulder. Mira walked beside him, holding the glowing orb close to her chest. The soft light from the orb gave the dark tunnel a peaceful feeling. It took hours to reach the hidden exit. They finally came out in a quiet green valley far from the city. The sun was rising, casting golden light over the trees. Birds sang softly. The air smelled clean fresh, not filled with smoke or machines. Mira looked around with wonder. So quiet here, Ronan smiled. This place has been forgotten by the world. That's why I chose it. He led her through the trees until they reached a small, broken-down cabin. It looked old from the outside, but inside it was something else. Ronan opened a hidden trapdoor under the floor. Below was another lab, smaller than the one in the city, but filled with old tech. Screens and a strange machine that sat at the center like a sleeping beast. The machine was tall and round, built from stone and metal. It looked like it came from another world. This is the heart of it all, Ronan said. The ancient machine. Mira walked slowly toward it. Her fingers brushed against its side. It felt warm, alive. What is it? She asked. No one really knows, Ronan said. But it came with the orb. We believe it's a kind of gateway, or keyhole, waiting for the key. Mira looked down at the orb glowing in her hands. Ronan continued. Others tried to activate it before. Scientists, engineers, even energy testers. But it never responded until now. Mira stepped forward. The orb in her hands began to shine brighter. The machine responded with a low hum. The metal rings around it began to move. Light spread through the cracks in its surface. Symbols glowed in the air, floating like snowflakes. The air became thick, with a soft energy that made Mira's skin tingle. Then the machine spoke. Not in words, but through the orb's voice, which echoed calmly. Beacon aligned. Light bearer confirmed. Initiating vision transfer. A beam of light reached out from the orb and touched Mira's forehead. Her eyes widened, but she didn't. Screamed she saw visions, not of Earth, but of stars, galaxies, and another world far away. A world filled with peace, green lands, blue skies, and beings of light tall, graceful creatures who smiled with eyes full of kindness. They weren't monsters. They weren't dangerous. They were the ones who had planted the light seed long ago. One of them spoke in her mind. You are the bridge. You are the hope. Protect the light. And the vision faded. Mira gasped and took a step back. Ronan caught her before she fell. What did you see? He asked. I saw them, she whispered. Not here. Somewhere far away. They said, the bridge. The hope. Ronan nodded slowly. They've been waiting. Mira sat on the ground, breathing slowly. I'm just a girl, she said. How can I carry all this? Sometimes, Ronan said gently, the smallest light can guide the biggest ship. She looked at him with calm eyes. They're coming, aren't they? He paused. If that signal reached space, then yes, they may come. Mira stood up. She wasn't shaking anymore. Her voice was stronger now. Then I want to be ready. 4. The next few days, Mira stayed in the valley with Ronan. He taught her how to read the symbols from the machine. She listened, learned quickly, and sometimes even understood things before he explained. I don't know how I know it, she said. Once. It just feels familiar. It's inside you, he replied. In your blood, your soul. They train together. Gosh. Ronan showed her how to stay hidden, how to move quietly, and how to use her mind to sense nearby energy. Mira surprised him again and again. But peace didn't last long. On the 4th night, Ronan's screen flashed red. Warning, unknown drone activity detected. Mira ran to his side. They found us. I think so, he said. Too many drones. Too close. Mira grabbed the orb. Then we have to protect the machine. Ronan nodded. He activated the old defense shield. We don't fight. We survive. We move again somewhere. Deeper. He opened a side door in the lab that led to a natural cave system. But Mira paused. What if the machine shuts down? She asked. It won't, Ronan said. It has already awakened. You're the trigger now. Wherever you go, the signal goes. She turned to the machine and whispered, I'll come back. Then she followed Ronan into the darkness. Far above them, hidden drones flew over the trees. They scanned the ground but found no heat signs. One drone stopped above the cabin ruins and blinked. Then a voice crackled in someone's headset far away in the city. Subject not found. Beacon location moved. Beside a cold, tall building, a man in a gray coat frowned. He stared at the hologram of Mira's face on the screen. Find her, he ordered. She's not just a child. She's the key. Back in the cave, Ronan and Mira sat near a small stream. The orb glowed gently between them. Mira looked up at the ceiling of the cave. Do you think I can really do this? Ronan looked at her with calm eyes. You've already started. You woke something no one else could. But what if I fail? You won't, he said. Because you care. That's your power. Not the light, not the orb. Your heart. Mira smiled. Small but real, in the silence of the cave, the orb pulsed. Like a heartbeat, it was waiting, so was the universe. Far away from the quiet cave, in a tall glass tower in Central District 1. A group of powerful people sat around a long table. Large screen in front of them showed Mira's face, captured. From a drone camera weeks ago, this is her. A woman in a black uniform asked. Yes, replied the man in the gray coat. The girl from the signal. She activated the alien tech. Another man leaned forward. She's a child. Why are we worried? The gray-coated man tapped to control. On the table, a new screen showed the activated relic glowing in Ronan's underground lab. Then another clip Myra, touching the orb, the beam of light. The voice from the machine. She's not just any child, the man said. She's the key the Orion archive spoke of. Silence filled the room. And Ronan, one asked. He's helping her, protecting her. He's gone underground. Our last drone lost her signal in the mountain region, but we're scanning. The woman nodded slowly. Bring them both in, live if possible. She turned to the screen and stared at Mira's calm eyes. We can't allow unknown power to grow without control. Back in the cave, Mira and Ronan continued deeper underground. The orb still glowed softly in Mira's hands, guiding their path through the natural tunnels. The deeper they went, the stranger the place became. Walls were no longer just stone. Some had smooth metal lines running through them, glowing faintly as Mira walked by. There were old carvings, not human, shaped like stars and symbols that felt strangely familiar. It's like the earth is hiding something, Mira whispered. Ronan nodded, or protecting it. Finally, they reached a wide open space. It wasn't just a cave. It was a chamber round, quiet and glowing faintly with a light from above. In the center stood another machine, even older than the last one. This one was part of the mountain itself, like it had grown there over time. Mira stepped forward. The orb floated from her hands and hovered above the ancient platform. A voice echoed again, not from the orb this time, but from the chamber itself. Lightbearer, present. Beacon, fully aligned. Awakening core. Ronan watched in awe as the machine shifted. The floor lit up with a map, stars, galaxies, and Earth in the center. Lines connected worlds. Some blinked in red, others in green. Myra stood in the middle, light surrounding her. She didn't look scared anymore. She looked ready. The machine spoke again. Do you accept the responsibility of the light? Mira took a breath. Yes, she said clearly, then received the truth. Suddenly, a rush of visions entered her mind. She saw the past, how thousands of years ago, beings from a distant world came to Earth. They were peaceful, curious, and full of knowledge. They called themselves the Star Keepers. They didn't want to rule. They wanted to guide. They planted seeds of light, small sparks inside chosen humans who showed kindness, courage, and balance. But darkness came. Not all humans welcomed the visitors. Fear turned into war. The Star Keepers were forced to leave. Only a few seeds remained, hidden in bloodlines. Waiting for a new beginning, Mira now understood. She was one of those seeds. And now her light had grown strong enough to wake the beacon, the final machine that could open a path back to the Star Keepers. Ronan watched as she slowly lowered to the ground, her eyes glowing with quiet strength. What did you see? He asked. Everything, she whispered. The truth, the past. And now they're coming. But they weren't the only ones coming. High above the mountains, dark ships appeared, silent, fast, and full of government agents. They had followed the last trace of Mira's signal. Now, they were moving quickly. Inside one of the ships, the man in the gray coat gave the order, "Do not fire. We want them alive. Prepare for capture." The ships dropped special drones shaped like small spheres. They flew silently, scanning heat, movement, and energy. One drone blinked red. It had found them. Down in the chamber, Ronan's scanner buzzed. "They found us," he said quickly. Mira stood tall. "We can't run forever," Ronan nodded. "We stand, but carefully." Tapped a button on his wrist. A defense system activated around the chamber, an invisible shield made from alien tech Ronan had rebuilt years ago. Moments later, first drone entered the cave. It hit the shield and broke into pieces. More followed, one after another. Then came the soldiers dressed in black suits, carrying stun weapons and net launchers. They surrounded the cave entrance. Ronan aimed a small energy blaster at the door, but he knew they were outnumbered. Then something amazing happened. Mira stepped forward, raised her hand, and closed her eyes. The orb glowed brighter than ever before. The machine behind her responded. Symbols rose into the air, and a soft wave of light pushed outward. The soldiers froze, their weapons. Jammed, the lights on their suits shut off. One of them dropped his helmet and fell to his knees, eyes wide. "What is this?" he whispered. Ronan looked at Mira. "You just used the light to stop them. I didn't mean to hurt anyone," she said softly. "I just wanted them to stop." They did. Not because of fear, because something inside them, something. Human responded to that wave of light. A few of the soldiers lowered their weapons. Some even stepped back. The man in the gray coat pushed forward, angry. "This is dangerous. This child is controlling minds." "No," Ronan said, stepping. "In front of Mira, she's not controlling anything. People are just remembering who they are. Kind, honest, human. I won't let her change the world." But before he could fire, one of his own soldiers stepped in and pushed the gun away. "She already has." The soldier said. In the end, no one fired a shot. The soldiers left quietly, confused but unharmed. The gray-coated man was taken away by his own team for questioning, and Mira. She stood in the middle of the glowing chamber, her eyes calm. She had chosen peace, and peace had listened. The chamber was quiet again. The soldiers had left. The shield around the cave was still active, but no one was trying to break in anymore. Ronan stood near the entrance, still watching, still alert. But Mira, she sat calmly in the center, her hands resting on the glowing orb that floated gently above her lap. She had just used the light not to attack, not to hurt, but to calm. And it had worked. Even the cold, angry eyes of the gray-coated officer had softened before his team pulled him away. Ronan watched her, amazed. "You've done what no weapon ever could," he said softly. Mira opened her eyes. "I didn't mean to stop them. I just wanted peace." "That's the difference," Ronan said. "Most people want power, want peace. That's why the light chose you." Mira looked up at the ancient machine. It was still glowing, slowly turning in silence, like it was breathing. The soft lines of light spread through the stone walls around them, forming maps and symbols. No. Human had fully understood. "What happens now?" Mira asked. Before Ronan could answer, the machine spoke again, not in words, but in gentle pulses of light that Mira could feel inside her. A beam rose from the floor into the sky above. Through layers of rock and soil, it reached all the way up into the clouds, past the atmosphere. A signal had been sent far beyond Earth, past the moon, deeper into space than humans had ever gone. Something stirred, floating between stars. It was a ship. It wasn't like human ships. It had no engines, no metal wings. It was shaped like a growing tree, with glowing roots that reached toward distant galaxies. The signal from Earth reached the ship, and the ship responded, one by one. Lights across its surface turned on. A soft hum echoed through space. Beings inside, tall, peaceful, made of light and energy, opened their eyes after a long sleep. They spoke in one voice. "The light has returned. The bearer is awake. Earth calls again." Then the ship began to move slowly, gently, like a wave rolling across the stars. It was coming home. Back on Earth, Ronan checked his screen. "Something's coming," he said, staring at the blinking lights on his device. "It's big, and not from here." Mira stood up. She felt it too. Not fear, not danger, just a presence. "It's them," she said. "The ones from the visions. The ones who planted the seed." Ronan looked at her carefully. "And are we ready to meet them?" Mira nodded. "Yes, I think we are." The next day, the skies above Earth began to change. People in every country, in every city looked up. The clouds parted slowly. Strange. Golden light appeared like a second sun, but softer, kinder. From that light, a shape appeared. The alien ship. It didn't crash, didn't attack. It didn't even make a sound. It simply hovered high above Earth. Glowing softly, governments all over the world sent messages. Some were curious, some were afraid. Some warned of invasion, but the ship said nothing. It waited deep underground. In the cave, Mira stepped forward. The machine opened again. A glowing doorway appeared. Ronan gasped. "Is that a gate?" The orb pulsed. "It is a bridge," it said, "for the light-bearer to meet the star-keepers." Mira looked at Ronan. "Will you come with me?" He hesitated. "The light chose me." "But I did," she said. Ronan smiled. Together, they stepped through the doorway. They didn't float. They didn't disappear. It was like stepping into a dream. One moment they were in the cave. The next, they were standing in a bright, open space that looked like the inside of a star. Light danced on every surface. The air was warm, filled with soft sounds like music, and in front of them stood the Star Keepers. They were tall, glowing. Beings with eyes like shining water. Their faces were calm. Their voices came from everywhere, not from mouths, but from the space around. "Mira," they said as one, "you carry the light. You opened the beacon, you called us back." Bowed her head. "I didn't do it for power. I just wanted to help." The Star Keepers nodded. "That is why you succeeded. The light is not for war. It is for healing, for remembering who we truly are." Ronan stepped forward. "Will you harm Earth?" The Star Keepers turned to him. "We do not harm. We offer peace, knowledge, and guidance, if your world is ready." Mira looked up. "I believe many are ready. Not all, but many." The Star Keepers stretched out their hands. A beam of light touched Mira's chest. In that moment, she saw all of Earth's cities, forests, oceans, deserts. She felt its pain, its hope, its kindness, its fear, and its light. "You are the first bridge," the Star Keepers said, "but not the last. Your light will guide others." When Mira and Ronan returned to the cave, the world was waiting. Messages flooded the networks. People wanted answers, and Myra gave them. Not with power, not with control, but with truth. She told them what she saw. What the Star Keepers wanted, what the light meant. She didn't claim to be a leader. She didn't ask for anything. She just spoke from the heart, and slowly. The world listened. The fear began to fade. People stopped looking at the ship in the sky as a threatened, started seeing it as a chance to change, a chance to grow. Later that night, Mira sat beside Ronan, outside the cave. The stars were bright. "They came," she said quietly. "Yes," Ronan replied, "and you were ready." She looked at him. "Thank you for giving me your leftovers that day." He laughed. "Best decision I ever made." The orb close to her heart. The world was different now. But the journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. Weeks had passed since the starship arrived. It still floated silently in the sky, peaceful, glowing and quiet like a guardian watching from above. The people of Earth had grown used to it. Some still feared it, but most had begun to understand. It meant no harm. It came because someone called it, that someone was Mira. She was no longer just a small girl who looked for food in trash bins. She was now known around the world not as a hero or ruler, but as the light bearer, the one who awakened something greater, the one who reminded people of kindness. But Mira didn't let fame change her. She still lived simply. She still cared. For the street children under the old bridge, every morning she visited the cave with Ronan to learn more from the ancient machine and the glowing orb. One day, as they stood by the machine, Ronan asked her gently, "Do you feel different?" Now, Mira thought for a moment. "I feel stronger, but not in my hands. In my heart." Ronan smiled. "That's the best kind of strength." The orb floated above them and spoke, soft and calm. "The time has come. The light must be shared." Amira turned, shared. "How?" The orb glowed brighter. "You are the first light bearer, but not the last. There are others like you young ones, old ones, hidden in every part of the world. The spark lives inside them, waiting to be awakened." Mira looked at Ronan. "We need to find them." He nodded and guided them. And so, their journey began, not across space, but across Earth. Mira and Ronan left the valley and traveled from one city to another, one country to the next. The Star Keepers helped quietly, sending visions and gentle signals through the orb. Wherever they went, they listened. They didn't force. They didn't demand. They simply looked for people who still had light in their hearts, people who helped. Others who healed the sick, who shared even when they had little. People like Mira, and when one was found, the orb glowed. And the person felt something awaken inside them, warmth, a calmness, a new understanding. These were the new light bearers. Each one received a tiny spark from the orb, a soft glow that lived inside them. Not to make them famous, but to remind them of who they truly were, protectors of peace. Soon, the world began to change, not in big, loud ways, but in quiet, powerful ways. In the slums of Old East, a young boy began to teach other children how to grow food in dry land in a war-torn village. A woman used her light to calm angry hearts and end fighting that had lasted for years in a broken city filled with noise. A quiet man built a place where anyone rich or poor could come and sit, eat, and speak without fear. These were not miracles. These were choices made with light. Meanwhile, the governments of Earth watched carefully. Some feared the rise of the light bearers. Will they try to control us? One leader asked. But the answer always came from Mira, spoken with peace. The light is not here to rule. It is here to remind. The Starkeepers never landed on Earth. They never marched or shouted. They simply waited above, like a silent promise. They knew the humans had to grow on their own. One night, back at the cave, Mira stood with Ronan under the stars. She looked up at the ship in the sky. They never came down, she whispered. They didn't need to, Ronan said. They trusted you. Mira held the orb in her hands. The world is changing, yes, he said, because of you. She turned to him. Because of us, he smiled. What will you do now? Mira looked out at the mountains, the sky, the earth. I'll keep walking, she said.
Ow.
Are still people out there who feel alone, who think they don't matter? I want to remind them they do. Ronan nodded. I'll walk with you. And so they did. They walked. Not as rulers, not as warriors, but as lights in a world that had forgotten its glow. They passed through crowded cities and quiet villages, bringing nothing but a calm presence and a listening ear. They shared food, they shared warmth, they shared silence. And in return, they saw sparks light up, and others one by one. The orb slowly grew dimmer, not because it was dying, but because its light was now everywhere. It lived in people, in children, in hearts that had once been cold. The world would never be perfect, but it was healing, because of a small girl who once stood outside a golden window and whispered, May, I have your leftovers, sir. And because one man, lonely, tired, and full of pain, chose to say, yes. Years later, the ship still hovered above. Some called it a guardian, some called it a myth, but most didn't need to look up anymore, because the light was already within them. And Myra, she was still out there walking, smiling, listening. She never asked for much, but she gave everything a spark, a reminder, a chance, and the world at last had learned to listen.